if one of my clients said I might be able to, I would look him in the eye, or her, and I would say, weasel words. I do this to my team all the time at Bulletproof. And a weasel word means that you were using a word that your nervous system believed that made you weak. Because might be able to is very different than will or won't, which are the two active words there. You either are going to do it, you are not going to do it, you might plan to do it, you might think about doing it, but if you wonder if you're able to or not, you've already lost. And I'll explain how and why that stuff works. This is me when I weighed 300 pounds. It's also a photo from Entrepreneur magazine, so it actually happened because it was published a lot of times. It's also scanned, which is why it isn't a very good image. Now, I was 22, 23 at the time, and the reason it was in Entrepreneur magazine is that I'm the first guy to sell anything over the internet, the first example of e-commerce ever. I didn't invent Al Gore or e-commerce, but I was there, and I happened to be the first guy by a day. The second guy sold wine over Usenet, because this was before the browser existed. You can see I was fat, right? The problem is that when I was fat, I worked out 6 days a week for 18 months straight, and I would do 45 minutes of cardio and 45 minutes of weights because I have willpower. And I said I'm going to use my willpower because nothing matters more than losing this weight, because I've had 3 knee surgeries by the time I'm 23, and they told me I'm lucky to walk. And it hurts to have a screw put into your knee, and I did not want to do that again. The problem is that I didn't lose any weight when I did that. And I was really frustrated and resolved that it's because I didn't try hard enough. It was a lack of willpower, right? That wasn't exactly the case. Fast forward a few years, I actually lost about 40 pounds, maybe 50 by the time this photo was taken. This is my instructor photo from the University of California, where I ran the web and internet engineering program for about 5 years. It was also published a lot, so these are like known photos of me that say, yeah, I was fat. During that time, I had a little bit of a problem. I was getting brain fog. As in, I'm at a company. In fact, I made $6 million when I was 26 at a company that created cloud computing. The only problem was I lost it when I was 28, so don't high-five me yet. When your brain doesn't work, though, and you're sitting in a meeting and you realize I have no idea what's going on, and I can't remember what happened yesterday, and I don't remember what I'm supposed to do, it gets scary. And I started measuring my cognitive function and performance, and I found out there was a huge daily variance for reasons I didn't understand. And I realized that some days I had more willpower than others, and some days I had more energy, and some days I actually could think better than others, and there must be a reason. So I started getting some data, some other data. Increased risk for stroke and myocardial infarction. I'm 29 or 30 when this was done, and they're saying, you're going to die like you're old. Now, I've run an anti-aging nonprofit research group for a decade, and I work a lot with older people who don't die from stroke and heart attack. But at the time, this was very motivating, as you might imagine. Not to mention, I was getting my MBA at Wharton while working full-time at a startup. So I decided I needed to look at my brain because I make my living with my brain, and it wasn't working. So like any normal person would do, I injected radioactive sugar into my arm and did a test of the metabolism in my brain that shows which parts are working and which parts aren't working. As in, is there metabolic activity when you try and concentrate? This is the results. An interesting referral from the brain doctor. That's the last thing you ever want to be. Decreased activity in the prefrontal cortex, the most recently evolved part of the brain where a lot of your humanity happens. In fact, when I tried to concentrate, nothing was happening metabolically in my brain. It was turned off. So what they told me in 7th grade was actually coming true. You're fat and stupid. Boom. Decided I needed to learn a few things. So I became an expert in yoga. And I suppose I could put my ankle behind my head right now without warming up, because you can hack that, but there's no need. We only have 12 minutes. Went to Peru in 2001 and did ayahuasca with a shaman. Steve Jobs used LSD. Lots of other people in positions of power have had a spiritual experience under the influence of hallucinogens, and I have too. I shaved my head. Why? I was going to go to a Buddhist monastery, and I wasn't a Buddhist, but I thought it would be kind of cool. So I learned to meditate on a trip to Nepal and Tibet for 3 months. Climbed to Mount Kailash, the headwaters of the Ganges River and the Indus River, a very holy place. In fact, for the Hindu religion and the Buddhist religion, it is the place where the gods live. And I walked around it at -10 degrees and 16,000+ feet. Fasted and meditated in a cave all by myself in the middle of the desert for 4 years. Any of this sound like biohacking to you? All this is paying attention to what's going on inside your head, all of this stuff. And then I got serious. I got data. And this is a program that I use with my clients today called 40 Years of Zen. We glue 8 electrodes to your head, and it takes 7 days of very intense work, akin to meditation, but it's meditation with rubber bumpers and lights. Because when you meditate wrong, the lie detector tells you did it wrong. So there's no escaping your brain. Because your brain will lie to you. And this is something you need to understand. There's a process in your mind that is not you. It's an automated survival process, the same as any animal, and it's faster than you. And it is largely the source of the things that screw you up. And the reason I'm talking about all this stuff I did is that this is how I learned about this process. In fact, you actually train your brain in this process to have the same state as someone who's done 40 years of daily Zen meditation. Basically, the sounds get quiet whenever you're not acting like a Zen monk. I've never had a client not throw up, or I did a double negative. What does that mean? All of the clients either throw up or cry, or both, in the course of 7 days. It's actually the hardest thing I've ever done. I've done it 6 weeks straight. It was this lady, though, who really taught me what was going on. This is at a transpersonal psychology thing where you use breathing techniques that actually make you trip more than LSD. They were invented by the guy who used LSD for therapy on 10,000 people in the Czech Republic named Stan Grof. This is Barbara Van Dyson, head of the American Pre- and Perinatal Psychology Association, or founder, I should say. She's retired. Barbara explained to me why I had automated rules running in my body that I was unaware of, and I learned that we have these animal responses, and they all get programmed mostly before you're 7. You're not responsible for all those bizarre, weird thoughts happening in your head. What's responsible is your automated protection systems that are very poorly programmed, and you can reprogram them, and when you do it, your willpower goes through the roof. And we'll talk about some things you can do to do that. Before we get into the how and the why of this, that's the difference that 15 years and a path of spiritual awareness, self-awareness that is data-driven can lead you. I don't look the same. I don't act the same. I don't think the same. I don't talk the same. And the way I interact with the world is fundamentally different. And I've gone from a place of being a relatively angry, defensive, fearful person who was unaware that there was fear driving my behaviors to someone who has a genuine desire to help people and someone who has, and this is a technical engineering term from Silicon Valley, an open heart. Meet the Labrador. It's cute, isn't it? Let's see what Labradors do. Look, a stick. Distractibility. You have a Labrador in your head. I'm sorry. What else do Labradors do? Look, cat poop. I think I'll eat it. You ever ate the cookie you told yourself you weren't going to eat? Who do you think ate that cookie? It was the Labrador in your head. And the final thing that a Labrador will do, look, a leg. I'll hump it. There. We got just about all of the human behaviors that get us in trouble captured in a beautiful, nice Labrador retriever like that. So how do you interact with the Labrador in your head? Because this is the source of your willpower. As an example, the Labrador, his job is to keep you alive. Why do you have a Labrador? Well, let's say there was an ice age and a famine and a comet all hit the Earth at the same time. Well, your prefrontal cortex, or human part of your brain, wouldn't really be that active because after a couple generations, our biology degrades as a species. All animals do this. It's called epigenetics. Can you survive without any human thoughts at all? Eat stuff, run away from stuff, bite stuff, and reproduce. 200 generations from now, when there's more food, will our species flourish again? Damn straight. You are evolved to gracefully degrade into your animal brain. And if you feed yourself improperly, you use substances like MSG or lots of other things, some pharmaceuticals, some food additives, and some natural substances that mess with your head. The first part of your head that gets messed with is the human part because it eats last. The part of your brain, the survival part that eats first, is the Labrador. And the Labrador has an unfair advantage because the Labrador can react very quickly. If you don't believe me, accidentally lean on a hot stove, pull away, and then realize how hot it was. None of you ever goes, I smell bacon. No, that's my hand. I guess through a rational process, there must be fire, I think I'll move. Never. It's not even I felt it and then I decided to move. It is I moved and then I made I noticed this. How does this happen? It's because this thing has a role in our body. But because it's so fast, it can insert itself into the things you do every day. And it's the thing that sits in your head when there's a cookie in front of you at the conference table and it says, I'm starving because I don't have the adequate nutrition. I don't have enough fat. I don't have enough nutrients. Since I'm starving, eat the cookie. And you, with your willpower, you say no. And then it says, eat the cookie. And you say no. You ever heard of decision-making fatigue? It's a proven thing. You only have so many decisions in you. As the CEO of a fast-growing company, I am rabid about not making decisions because I am overwhelmed with decisions every day. One decision that I do not make is telling my Labrador brain no. It does not ever happen. I don't need to tell it no because it's fed. I fed my dog and it shut up and it freed my willpower. I also do other things, like the stuff you've already heard about, like neurofeedback, to make myself more aware of when that brain interjects itself in my reality. Because it's so fast, it is fully capable of editing things out of my vision. I didn't notice that thing because it was just too scary. That sounds impossible? I've seen it happen on EEG machines. I've seen it happen with clients. The things that are most scary to us can be invisible to us. These are the behaviors you have that you don't know about. The ones that make you marry the wrong person 5 times in a row who's just like your mom or your dad. Those kinds of behaviors are all Labrador behaviors because your Labrador can get in the way if you're not aware of it. And this is why the way you free up your willpower is first you address your biology. You feed it properly. But once you're adequately fueled and you shut the Labrador up so it stops saying you're starving, it puts you in a position to go down a spiritual path much more quickly, to become self-aware, because that self-awareness is what frees up your willpower. So instead of being mystified by what's going on, you actually realize, oh, my body, my nervous system betrayed me. It told me something that wasn't true. And then you go down the path of reprogramming. And you can reprogram those automated defense system rules so that they serve you. There are various techniques like that. I just talked about a bunch of them, like neurofeedback, heart rate variability, biofeedback, and many other things, including the spiritual path of plant medicines, something that I've certainly done myself, something that Aubrey just talked about. So my best advice for you is take a deep breath when something's going on that you don't like and ask yourself, is that a conscious behavior or an unconscious behavior? And if it's an unconscious behavior, how do you hack it? Either you reprogram the rule by going down a path of consciousness and self-awareness, or you address the underlying cause biologically. And if you do the biology first, the second path is much easier. So that's my recommendation. There's a quote that I love to end presentations with, and it's from Henry Miller. And it's that the goal of life is not to accumulate power, but to radiate it. And when you get this right, and you make your willpower something that you apply intelligently and consciously to make the change happen that you believe will help the most people, that's when you're really kicking ass. Don't waste your willpower saying no to the bagel. It's not worth it. Thank you.